Long before scrolls were written, before symbols were pressed into clay or carved into stone, there was a quieter way of knowing the world. It wasn't written down, and it wasn't stored anywhere special. It simply lived, passed gently from one person to another over time. You don't have to imagine a distant, dramatic past. You can picture something much calmer than that. A world that moved slowly, where nothing demanded immediate answers, and where knowledge wasn't chased, but noticed. In those early days, people didn't hurry through life. They paid attention. They watched the land change. They noticed the sky, and they remembered what mattered, not because it was written down, but because it returned again and again. There were no libraries, and no formal lessons. Learning didn't happen in quiet rooms. It happened outdoors, beside fires, along familiar paths, and through repeated moments shared with others. To understand something was simply to live with it long enough. Tonight, we're not here to study that world. We're here to rest inside it, gently, without effort. You can listen closely if you want to, or you can let the words drift by, like background noise you don't need to follow. There's no right way to be here. Before writing existed, knowledge didn't move in straight lines. It didn't have beginnings and endings. It moved in circles. A story would be told, remembered, and then told again, sometimes changing slightly, sometimes staying the same. That wasn't a flaw. That was the point. Stories weren't entertainment in the way we think of them now. They were reminders. They quietly held information about where to go, when to stop, and how to live together without needing constant instruction. Over time, those stories became familiar, like paths worn into the ground by many footsteps. It's easy to imagine a group gathered in the evening, not to be taught, but simply to be together. Someone speaks slowly. Others listen without interrupting. The same story may have been heard many times before, but it's still told because repetition keeps it alive. The land itself was part of this remembering. Mountains weren't just obstacles to cross. They were landmarks that stayed the same while everything else changed. Rivers weren't just water. They were guides that quietly showed where life gathered. People learned the rhythms of their world without measuring them. Seasons returned. Animals moved. The length of daylight shifted gradually. These changes didn't need explanation. They were simply observed, year after year, until they became familiar. Knowledge didn't belong to individuals. It belonged to everyone. Elders weren't powerful because they controlled information. They were valued because they remembered what others had forgotten. Not instructions, but experiences. Not rules, but outcomes. Sometimes they remembered what worked. Sometimes they remembered what didn't. Their role wasn't to command, but to gently remind others of patterns that repeated over time. There were places that felt important, though no one would have called them sacred in the way we might today. A cave where sound carried differently. A clearing where people naturally gathered. A stone that caught the light at certain moments of the year. These places weren't worshipped. They were noticed. They encouraged stillness, not belief. Being there was enough. Understanding the world didn't require explanation or certainty. It required presence. To sit quietly and watch a fire settle into embers was to learn something about time. To walk the same path over many years was to understand change without needing words. This way of knowing didn't disappear because it was wrong. It faded because the world began to move faster. Writing fixed things in place. Records replaced memory. Efficiency replaced patience. But the older way never truly vanished. It stayed in the background, quiet and steady, waiting for moments like this where nothing needs to be done and the mind can finally slow down. As we move forward, we'll explore more of this unwritten wisdom, gently and without urgency. But for now, There's nothing you need to hold on to. Let the voice remain calm, let the pace remain slow, and allow yourself to rest in a time where knowledge didn't demand attention, it simply existed. As time passed, this way of knowing settled into daily life so completely that it didn't feel special. It wasn't separated from ordinary moments. Knowledge lived inside routine, inside repetition, and inside the quiet habits people returned to every day. A child didn't sit down to be taught. They watched. They followed. They copied what they saw again and again until it felt natural. Skills were absorbed slowly, through doing, not through explanation. Mistakes weren't failures. They were part of learning how the world responded. In this world, attention mattered more than instruction. People learned to notice small changes. The way the air felt before rain. The way animals behaved before the seasons shifted. The way silence could mean safety or warning, depending on the moment. Nothing needed to be rushed because survival depended on patience. Acting too quickly could be dangerous. Waiting, watching, and listening often mattered more than acting at all. Stories continued to play a central role, but not in the way stories do today. They weren't performed. They weren't owned. They were shared. A story might be told one evening, then quietly referenced weeks later, woven naturally into conversation, without announcement. Sometimes a story wasn't finished. It didn't need to be. Everyone listening already knew where it was going. What mattered wasn't the ending, but the reminder, the gentle return to something familiar. In this way, memory stayed flexible. It adjusted to new experiences without breaking. Knowledge wasn't fixed in place. It moved with people, changed with them, and adapted as circumstances shifted. The natural world wasn't something to be mastered. It was something to be understood gradually through long exposure. People learned where to build, where to travel, and where to avoid, not through maps, but through accumulated experience. Paths formed not because they were planned, but because they were used. Over time, footsteps created familiarity. Familiarity created safety, and safety allowed life to continue without constant fear. Community was essential to this process. No one was expected to know everything. Knowledge was distributed, shared, and supported collectively. If one person forgot, another remembered. If someone made a mistake, others helped correct it. This created a quiet sense of belonging, not because everyone agreed, but because everyone participated. Knowledge wasn't power, it was responsibility. There was also room for silence. Not every moment needed to be filled with speech. Sitting together without talking was normal. Listening without responding was common. Silence wasn't uncomfortable. It was part of being present. In those quiet moments, people noticed things that words often miss. The way firelight softened faces. The way shadows moved as the night deepened. The way the world felt larger when attention slowed down. This unwritten wisdom didn't separate the practical from the meaningful. Survival skills and values existed together. Knowing how to hunt, how to gather, how to build shelter, and how to treat others were all part of the same understanding. Life wasn't divided into categories. It was experienced as a whole. As writing slowly entered human societies, something subtle changed. Knowledge began to settle onto surfaces instead of living entirely inside people. Memory shifted outward. Records replaced repetition. This made many things easier, but it also changed how people related to what they knew. Information became something to store rather than something to live. The older way didn't disappear all at once. It faded gradually as speed increased and attention shortened, but traces of it remain, even now, in moments when time seems to slow on its own. You might notice it when you walk without a destination, or when you sit quietly without needing distraction. That feeling of being fully present without effort echoes an older way of knowing. As we continue, we'll explore how these early patterns shaped relationships, belief, and identity without ever being written down. For now, there's nothing you need to remember. Let the ideas settle softly, the way they once did, carried not by urgency, but by time. As communities grew and changed, this quiet way of knowing shaped how people related to one another. There was no clear line between learning and belonging. To be part of the group was to share in its memory, its habits, and its understanding of the world. Relationships were not built through written rules. They were shaped through repeated interactions, through watching how others behaved, and through noticing what helped the group remain stable over time. Respect wasn't enforced. It was modeled slowly and consistently. Children learn not just by observing tasks, but by observing people. They noticed how disagreements were handled, how patience was shown, and how care was offered without being announced. These lessons stayed with them because they were lived, not explained. Even conflict had its place. Disagreements weren't avoided, but they weren't rushed either. Time was allowed for emotions to settle. Listening often came before response. Silence created space for reflection, rather than pressure to react. In this way, emotional understanding developed alongside practical knowledge. Knowing how to read the mood of a group was just as important as knowing how to read the land. Balance mattered, and imbalance was noticed long before it became destructive. There was also an awareness of limits. Early peoples understood that taking too much, moving too quickly, or ignoring patterns led to harm. Restraint wasn't framed as sacrifice. It was simply part of keeping life sustainable. The land responded to care, and it also responded to neglect. Over time, those responses became familiar. People learned that attention was a form of respect, and respect allowed continuity. This understanding extended to time itself. Life wasn't measured in hours or deadlines. It moved according to cycles. Day followed night. Seasons followed seasons. Change happened gradually, and patience made it visible. Waiting was not wasted time. It was part of the process. Seeds took time to grow. Weather took time to shift. People took time to learn. Nothing was expected to happen instantly. Because of this, there was less pressure to arrive somewhere quickly. Journeys mattered as much as destinations. What was seen along the way, who was met, and how the path felt were all part of understanding the world. Identity wasn't fixed by written records or permanent labels. It evolved naturally through participation. Who you were was shaped by what you contributed, how you treated others, and how you responded to change. Memory lived collectively. Important events weren't archived. They were remembered through retelling, through shared reference, and through quiet acknowledgement. Over time, stories softened. Sharp edges faded. What remained was meaning, not detail. This made memory forgiving. It allowed people to move forward without being trapped by the past. Lessons stayed, but blame did not linger indefinitely. Continuity mattered more than precision. As generations passed, this unwritten wisdom created a sense of stability that didn't depend on permanence. Life changed, but the approach to living remained familiar. Adaptation didn't feel like loss. It felt like continuation. Eventually, writing would change how knowledge moved through the world. Information would travel faster, and memory would become external. This brought many benefits, but it also altered the relationship between people and what they knew. Knowledge began to feel separate from experience. Words could exist without context. Instructions could exist without understanding. Speed replaced patience, and certainty replaced curiosity. But beneath all of that, the older way still quietly exists. It appears in moments when explanation feels unnecessary, when simply being present feels enough, when time slows on its own without effort. You might notice it in the evening when the world grows quieter and thoughts lose their urgency, or in moments when nothing needs to be done and attention can finally rest. These moments echo an earlier rhythm, a way of living that didn't rush to define itself, a way of knowing that trusted repetition, attention, and time. As we continue, we'll move gently into how this unwritten wisdom shaped beliefs, not as systems, but as shared understandings. For now, allow the pace to remain unhurried. Let the ideas settle softly, without needing to follow them closely. Just being here is enough. Belief, in the earliest human communities, did not arrive as a system or a doctrine. It formed quietly through shared experience, through observation, and through time spent paying attention to the same world together. There were no clear boundaries between what was practical and what felt meaningful. Both existed side by side, without needing separation. People did not gather to define belief. They gathered to live. Meaning emerged naturally from patterns that repeated, from events that left impressions, and from moments that felt larger than explanation. These moments did not demand interpretation. They simply stayed with those who experienced them. A storm that arrived unexpectedly, a season that lasted longer than usual, or a journey that ended differently than planned could all become part of a shared understanding. Not because they were assigned significance, but because they were remembered together. Over time, memory softened into meaning. The sky played a quiet role in this process. Its movements were slow, consistent, and impossible to ignore. The sun returned. The moon changed shape. Stars appeared and disappeared in familiar patterns. These changes did not require explanation to feel important. They provided rhythm, and rhythm provided reassurance. People noticed where the sun rose at different times of year, how shadows shifted, and how darkness carried a different quality depending on the season. These observations weren't recorded, they were absorbed. Over many years, they became part of how time itself was understood. This awareness did not lead to prediction in the modern sense. It led to preparation. Knowing when change was likely allowed people to move with it, rather than resist it. The future was not something to control. It was something to meet, calmly, when it arrived. There was also an understanding that not everything needed to be known. Mystery was not treated as a problem. It was accepted as part of living in a world larger than any one person. Questions could exist without answers, and that was not unsettling. Silence played an important role here as well. Not everything was discussed. Not every experience was explained. Some moments were simply held, privately or collectively, without words. Silence was not empty. It was full of attention. This made belief flexible. It did not need to be defended or reinforced. It adapted as circumstances changed. New experiences did not threaten older understandings. They expanded them. Ritual, when it existed, was simple. It grew out of repetition rather than invention. Certain actions were performed again and again because they felt grounding, familiar, and stabilizing. Lighting a fire in the same way, gathering at the same place, marking transitions without ceremony. These actions were not symbolic in a complex sense. They were comforting. They created continuity in a changing world. Through repetition, they offered a sense of steadiness that did not rely on explanation. As generations passed, this quiet framework of meaning supported communities through change. Loss, uncertainty, and hardship were not avoided, but they were not faced alone. Shared memory created shared resilience. Over time, as societies became larger and more complex, Belief systems began to formalize. Stories were organized. Meanings were clarified. Structure replaced flexibility. This brought clarity, but it also narrowed interpretation. The older way did not disappear entirely. It retreated into the background, present in moments of stillness, in private reflection, and in the quiet sense that some things are understood best without words. You might recognize this feeling when you look at the night sky without trying to name what you see, or when you sit quietly without needing distraction. That sense of connection, without explanation, echoes a very old way of relating to the world. As we move forward, we'll gently explore how this unwritten understanding influenced identity, belonging, and the sense of self, long before names and records fixed those ideas in place. For now, let the pace remain gentle. Let the words come and go without effort. There is nowhere you need to arrive. Identity, in the earliest human world, was not something announced or defined in advance. It emerged gradually, shaped by participation, memory, and relationship. A person became known through presence, through consistency, and through the way they moved within the group over time. There were no fixed titles to claim, no permanent labels to carry. Who someone was could change as their role changed, and that flexibility was understood. Growth did not require reinvention, it required time. A person might be known for patience, for attentiveness, or for quiet skill. Another might be remembered for steadiness during difficulty, or for humor that eased tension. These qualities were not assigned, they were noticed. Belonging came from contribution, not comparison. People mattered because they were part of the whole, not because they stood apart from it. Individual strengths supported collective stability, and collective stability supported individual growth. This created a different relationship with the self. There was less pressure to define identity clearly or permanently. A person could simply exist, adapting naturally as life changed around them. The sense of self was also deeply connected to place. Land was not something separate from identity. It shaped daily experience, movement, and memory. Familiar paths, landmarks, and gathering places became extensions of who people were. Leaving a place meant more than traveling. It meant temporarily stepping away from a part of the self. Returning carried relief, recognition, and grounding. Home was felt, not defined. Because of this connection, people understood that identity was never fully individual. It was relational. It existed between people, between generations, and between humans and the land they lived within. Memory played a quiet role here as well. Stories about ancestors, journeys, and past events helped situate individuals within a longer timeline, not as obligation, but as context. Knowing where one came from offered orientation, not constraint. There was also acceptance of change. Loss was part of life, and grief was not hidden or hurried. Time was allowed for emotions to settle. Support was offered without needing explanation. Healing unfolded slowly, in rhythm with daily life. This approach created resilience, not the kind built through endurance alone, but the kind that grows from being held by others. Difficulty did not isolate people, it reinforced connection. As societies grew more complex, identity slowly became more fixed. Names were recorded, roles became permanent, expectations solidified. This made organization possible, but it also reduced flexibility. The older way had allowed people to shift, soften, and evolve without losing belonging. When identity became rigid, change became harder, and belonging more conditional. Still, echoes of the earlier approach remain. They appear in moments when labels feel unnecessary, when presence matters more than explanation, and when being seen is enough. You might recognize it when you're with someone who doesn't ask you to define yourself, or when you feel accepted without needing to perform. That ease reflects a very old understanding of what it means to belong. As we continue, we'll explore how this unwritten way of knowing shaped relationships with time, with aging, and with the passing of generations. For now, let the ideas rest gently. There's no need to hold on to them. They'll remain quietly in the background. As people grew older within their communities, their relationship with time slowly changed. Time was not something measured or managed. It was something felt. Days were shaped by light and darkness. Years were shaped by warmth and cold. Life unfolded without hurry, because there was nowhere else to be. Aging was not hidden or resisted. It was visible, accepted, and understood as part of the natural rhythm. Older people were not removed from daily life. They remained present, involved, and connected, carrying memory simply by continuing to exist within the group. With age came perspective, not certainty, but familiarity. Elders had seen patterns repeat. They had watched seasons return, conflicts resolve, and hardships pass. This gave them a calm steadiness that did not need to be announced. They did not rush to offer advice. Often, they waited. Silence gave others space to arrive at understanding on their own. When words were offered, they were simple, grounded in experience rather than explanation. In this way, knowledge moved gently across generations. Children grew while watching adults age. Adults learned by observing elders soften. Life was visible in all its stages, happening together. Death, when it came, was not treated as an interruption. It was understood as a transition woven into the same cycle as birth and growth. Grief was shared, not isolated. Time was allowed to stretch, to slow, and to absorb loss without forcing resolution. Remembering those who had passed did not require records. Memory lived in stories, habits, and places. A path someone used often, a way of sitting, a phrase spoken repeatedly. These traces remained quietly present. This relationship with time created patience, not because people tried to be patient, but because patience was unavoidable. Growth could not be rushed. Healing could not be forced. Waiting was part of living. Because of this, people developed a deep comfort with stillness. Sitting without purpose was normal. Watching without expectation was common. Silence was not something to fill. It was something to rest inside. In those quiet moments, awareness expanded. Attention moved outward, then inward, without effort. The boundary between the individual and the world softened. Being alive felt less like an identity and more like a shared experience. This sense of shared existence reduced fear. People did not feel alone inside themselves. Their thoughts, emotions, and struggles were understood as part of something larger. Support did not need to be requested. It was already there. The absence of written records meant that nothing was fixed permanently. Mistakes were not preserved forever. Change did not require erasing the past. It happened naturally through repetition and adaptation. Over time, this created a gentle trust in life's ability to continue. Even when circumstances were difficult, there was confidence that movement would resume, that balance would return, that nothing remained static forever. As writing slowly entered human societies, this relationship with time began to change. Moments became captured. Events became preserved. Memory became external. Time felt more segmented, more divided. This brought clarity, but it also introduced pressure. The need to keep up, the need to record, the fear of forgetting. Time became something to manage rather than inhabit. Yet the older rhythm never disappeared completely. It remained accessible in moments of stillness, in evenings when the world quiets on its own, in times when doing nothing feels natural rather than wasteful. You might notice it when you pause without checking the clock, or when a moment stretches gently without demanding anything from you. That feeling of ease reflects a very old relationship with time. As we move forward, we'll continue to explore how this unwritten wisdom shaped the human experience, quietly and steadily, without needing to be recorded. For now, allow yourself to stay where you are. Let the voice move slowly. Let the words come and go. There is no need to follow them closely. Just being here is enough. In the quiet spaces of early human life, there was a deep familiarity with waiting. Waiting was not uncomfortable. It did not feel like delay. It was simply part of how things unfolded. People waited for light to change, for weather to shift, for animals to move, and for moments to arrive on their own. Because waiting was common, there was little anxiety around it. Nothing felt urgent without reason. If something could not be done today, it would be done another time. Life did not collapse when plans shifted. It adjusted. This flexibility shaped how people related to uncertainty. Not knowing was normal. It did not create tension. Questions did not demand immediate answers. Curiosity existed without pressure, and mystery did not need to be resolved. In this way, people became comfortable living alongside the unknown. They trusted that clarity would come through experience, rather than explanation. If something mattered, it would reveal itself over time. This approach extended to decision-making as well. Choices were rarely made alone. Time was taken. Others were consulted. Silence was allowed between words. Decisions emerged gradually, rather than being forced into place. Because of this, regret carried less weight. When outcomes were shared, responsibility was shared too. No one carried the full burden of a choice. This created emotional safety, even when circumstances were difficult. The rhythm of daily life supported this sense of ease. Tasks were repeated, not optimized. Familiar movements brought comfort. Doing something the same way each day did not feel limiting. It felt grounding. There was also an acceptance of simplicity. Life did not need to be filled with constant activity. Moments of rest were woven naturally into the day. Sitting quietly was not seen as unproductive. It was simply part of being alive. In these quieter moments, people noticed subtle details. The sound of wind through leaves, the way light softened toward evening, the feeling of warmth fading as night approached. These observations were not recorded, they were absorbed. This constant, gentle attention shaped how people understood the world. It made them sensitive to change without making them anxious about it. Awareness grew without urgency. Over time, this way of living created a deep sense of trust. Trust in the land, trust in the group, trust in time itself. Life felt reliable, not because it was predictable, but because it was familiar. As writing and structure slowly became part of human societies, this trust began to shift. Systems replaced familiarity. Rules replaced observation. Efficiency replaced patience. Life became faster, more segmented, and more demanding of attention. Waiting began to feel uncomfortable. Silence began to feel empty. Stillness began to feel like absence. Yet the older rhythm remains accessible. It appears when expectations loosen, when schedules fade into the background, when nothing is required in the moment. You might notice it late at night when the world grows quieter and thoughts slow on their own, or early in the morning before the day begins to ask anything of you. That calm awareness is not new, it is very old. It connects you to a way of living that did not measure worth by output or time by productivity, a way that allowed life to move at its own pace. As this journey continues, we'll keep returning to that rhythm again and again, allowing the voice to remain gentle and unhurried. For now, there is nothing to follow, Nothing to remember, just the quiet presence of being here, resting inside a slower understanding of the world. As this slower rhythm continued across generations, it quietly shaped how people understood their place in the world. Life did not feel like something happening to them. It felt like something they were inside of, something they moved with rather than against. Because of this, there was less separation between thought and action. People did not spend much time imagining different versions of themselves. They became who they were through repetition, through familiarity, and through daily presence in the same places, with the same people. This created a sense of ease with the self. There was little pressure to improve, to optimize, or to redefine one's purpose. Purpose emerged naturally from participation. What needed to be done became clear through attention, not ambition. People woke with the light, rested when darkness arrived, and allowed their bodies to guide the pace of the day. Fatigue was respected. Energy was not forced. Rest was not something earned. It was something taken when needed. Because of this, exhaustion did not accumulate in the same way. Life had its difficulties, but they were balanced by periods of recovery that were built into the rhythm of living. The body and the mind were allowed to return to equilibrium without guilt. This gentle pacing also shaped how people related to emotion. Feelings were not treated as problems to solve. They were experiences to move through. Sadness, fear, and joy were all understood as temporary states, part of a larger flow. When someone struggled, they were not isolated. Others remained close, sometimes without speaking, sometimes without offering solutions. Presence mattered more than advice. Being there was enough. Over time, this created emotional resilience that did not rely on control. People trusted that difficult moments would pass because they always had before. That trust reduced fear even when circumstances were uncertain. The absence of written memory meant that life was not constantly compared to the past. People remembered experiences, but they did not replay them endlessly. Memory softened with time, allowing space for change without resistance. This made forgiveness easier, not because people were morally instructed to forgive, but because holding onto conflict required effort that most people did not feel compelled to sustain. Life moved forward, and grudges faded as attention returned to what was immediately present. The world itself reinforced this perspective. Landscapes changed slowly. Seasons followed familiar paths. Even dramatic events eventually settled back into continuity. Nature modeled resilience without urgency. Watching these patterns over many years taught patience without effort. There was no expectation that life should be easy, only that it would continue. That expectation was enough to create stability. As writing, structure, and formal systems expanded, these softer understandings were gradually overshadowed. Time became divided. Attention became fragmented. Life began to feel like a sequence of demands rather than a shared movement. Yet the older way still lingers beneath modern life. It appears when systems fall away, when schedules pause, and when the mind no longer feels pulled in multiple directions at once. You may recognize it in moments of quiet clarity when nothing needs to be decided and nothing feels incomplete. In those moments, being alive feels sufficient on its own. That feeling is not accidental. It echoes a time when existence did not require justification, when meaning was not searched for but experienced directly through participation and presence. As we continue this journey, we'll remain within that slower awareness, allowing each idea to settle without pressure. There is no destination ahead, only continuation, unfolding at a pace that feels natural and unforced. For now, allow the voice to stay steady. Let the words move slowly past you. You don't need to follow them closely. just rest inside the rhythm, the way people once did, long before anything needed to be written down. As this way of living continued, people developed a quiet confidence in the flow of life itself. They did not need constant reassurance that things would work out. That reassurance came from familiarity, from having seen time move forward again and again, even after difficulty. Life did not feel fragile in the way it sometimes does now. It felt resilient, not because it was protected, but because it adapted. When something changed, people adjusted. When something was lost, space was made for what followed. Nothing was expected to remain the same forever. This created a deep sense of acceptance, not resignation, but openness. People understood that change was not an interruption. It was part of the pattern. Growth, loss, rest, and renewal all belonged to the same rhythm. Because of this understanding, there was less fear around endings. An ending was rarely seen as final. It was simply a transition into another phase of living. What mattered was continuity, not permanence. This perspective softened the experience of uncertainty. When outcomes were unknown, people did not immediately imagine the worst. They waited, they observed, they allowed time to reveal what it would. Waiting did not feel passive. It felt attentive. People remained engaged with their surroundings, noticing subtle shifts, listening for cues, and responding only when something became clear. In this way, action was guided by readiness rather than pressure. Movement followed awareness, not urgency. This reduced unnecessary effort and preserved energy for moments that truly required it. The body was trusted in this process. Hunger, fatigue, alertness, and rest all carried information. People listened to these signals without judgment. They rested when tired. They moved when ready. There was no moral weight attached to exhaustion or stillness. This trust in bodily rhythm helped maintain balance over time. Burnout, as we understand it today, did not accumulate in the same way. Life included effort, but it also included recovery, built naturally into daily existence. Emotional rhythms were treated with the same respect. Feelings were allowed to rise and fall without being analyzed or controlled. Joy was welcomed. Sadness was supported. Fear was acknowledged without panic. When someone struggled, the response was often simple. Others stayed nearby. They shared space. They continued daily routines together. Support did not always arrive as words. It arrived as presence. This created a sense of emotional safety that did not depend on reassurance or explanation. People felt held by the continuity of the group, even during moments of inner difficulty. Memory, too, flowed gently in this environment. Experiences were remembered, but they were not fixed in rigid detail. Over time, memories softened, losing sharp edges while retaining meaning. This allowed people to carry the past without being burdened by it. Lessons remained, but emotional weight eased naturally. Life moved forward without needing to revisit every moment repeatedly. The natural world reinforced this approach. Storms passed. Landscapes changed slowly. Even damage healed over time. Watching this process taught patience without effort. The world demonstrated recovery again and again. This observation fostered a quiet optimism, not the expectation that things would always be easy, but the trust that movement would continue, that change would arrive, that nothing stayed frozen forever. As human societies gradually shifted toward written systems, many of these softer rhythms were overshadowed. Time became something to manage. Attention became divided. Experience became filtered through records and expectations. Yet the older way did not disappear. It receded, becoming less visible but still accessible. It remained available in moments when systems fell away, when nothing demanded immediate response. You might feel it late at night when the world grows quiet and your thoughts begin to slow, or during moments when you stop trying to understand everything and simply allow yourself to be present. That sense of ease is not accidental. It echoes a very old relationship with living, a way of being that trusted time, continuity, and shared presence more than control or certainty. As this journey continues, we will remain within that gentle awareness. There is no conclusion waiting ahead, only continuation, unfolding gradually, without demand. For now, allow yourself to stay where you are. Let the voice move slowly. Let the ideas pass without effort. You do not need to remember anything. Just rest inside the rhythm, the same way people once did, long before knowledge needed to be written down. As life unfolded within this slower rhythm, people developed a quiet trust in continuity. They did not need constant reassurance that tomorrow would arrive, because it always had before. Even when days were difficult, even when resources were scarce, time continued to move forward, gently carrying life with it. This trust reduced the need to control outcomes. People focused on what was near, what was present, and what could be tended to in the moment. Worry about distant possibilities did not occupy much attention. If something could not be addressed now, it would be addressed when it arrived. Because of this, the mind remained relatively unburdened. Thoughts did not spiral far into the future or remain trapped in the past. Attention stayed close to the body, the environment, and the people nearby. Life felt manageable, not because it was simple, but because it was immediate. Daily activities followed familiar patterns. Gathering, preparing food, caring for tools, and resting all happened without urgency. Repetition created stability. Doing the same things again and again did not feel monotonous. It felt reassuring. Through repetition, people developed confidence. Confidence not in achievement, but in familiarity. They knew what to expect from their surroundings, and they knew how to respond when something unexpected occurred. This familiarity also shaped how people related to each other. Trust grew naturally through shared experience. Words were not always needed. A look, a gesture, or a pause often communicated more than explanation ever could. Because relationships were built slowly, they tended to be resilient. Misunderstandings were allowed to settle. Conflict was not avoided, but it was not dramatized. Time softened tension, just as it softened memory. This created emotional spaciousness. People did not feel constantly evaluated or compared. There was room to be imperfect, room to change, room to simply exist without performance. The absence of written identity meant that people were not permanently defined by past actions. Mistakes did not follow them indefinitely. Growth was visible, and change was accepted without requiring justification. As people moved through different stages of life, their roles shifted naturally. Someone who once needed guidance might later offer it. Someone who once led might later step back. These transitions happened quietly, without ceremony. Aging was not separated from living. Older people remained part of daily rhythms, sharing space, memory, and presence. Their value did not depend on productivity. It came from continuity. This created a sense of emotional grounding across generations. Children grew up surrounded by visible life stages, learning that change did not mean loss of belonging. Everyone remained part of the whole. Time itself reinforced this understanding. Days lengthened and shortened. Seasons turned. Life followed patterns that were slow enough to observe without effort. Watching these cycles created patience without instruction. People did not expect constant progress. They expected fluctuation. Some periods were more active, others were quieter. Both were accepted as necessary. This acceptance reduced anxiety. When things slowed, there was no immediate concern. Slowness was familiar. Stillness was familiar. Life did not need to be filled continuously to feel meaningful. As writing and record-keeping gradually entered human societies, these rhythms began to change. Time became segmented. Activity increased. Attention became divided. Life started to feel more demanding. The earlier way did not vanish, but it became less visible. It moved into the background, present in moments when systems paused and expectations loosened. You may notice it when you are not trying to accomplish anything, when you sit quietly without distraction, when your breathing slows without effort. That sense of ease is ancient. It reflects a way of living that did not rush to define itself, measure itself, or explain itself. A way that trusted experience more than documentation. As this journey continues, we will remain within that gentle awareness. There is no destination waiting ahead, only continuation, unfolding gradually, without pressure. For now, allow yourself to stay here. Let the voice remain steady. Let the pace remain slow. You don't need to remember anything. Just rest inside this rhythm the way people once did, long before knowledge needed to be written down. As night arrived in the lives of early peoples, it did not bring separation from the world. It brought closeness. Darkness was familiar. It was expected. It carried its own rhythm, quieter and slower than the day, but no less alive. Evenings were not filled with activity. They were filled with presence. People gathered, not to accomplish anything, but to be together. Firelight softened faces. Voices lowered naturally. Movements became smaller, more deliberate. In this atmosphere, attention shifted inward. The world outside grew still, and thoughts followed. There was no pressure to stay alert. No need to remain productive. Rest was not something to earn. It arrived on its own. Stories told at night were different from stories told during the day. They were slower, more reflective. Details mattered less. The feeling mattered more. A story could wander, pause, or trail off without needing to be completed. Listening did not require effort. People already knew most of what was being said. The familiarity was comforting. It created a sense of continuity, of being part of something that extended beyond the present moment. Silence often followed these stories. Not an awkward silence, but a shared quiet. Breathing slowed. Bodies relaxed. The fire settled into embers. The world outside waited patiently. Sleep did not arrive suddenly. It approached gradually. People rested near one another, aware of shared warmth and quiet sounds. Dreams blended easily with waking thoughts. There was no sharp boundary between the two. This gentle transition into rest reinforced trust. The night was not something to fear. It was part of the cycle. Morning would return, as it always had. Nothing needed to be watched closely. Because rest was woven naturally into life, sleep carried a sense of safety. Minds did not race. Bodies did not resist letting go. Letting go felt normal. This relationship with rest shaped how people recovered from effort. Physical work ended with genuine rest. Emotional strain eased through shared presence. Nothing lingered without space to settle. Over time, this created resilience that did not rely on tension. People did not need to push themselves constantly. Energy returned on its own, guided by rhythm rather than discipline. As societies grew faster and more structured, this relationship with night and rest began to change. Artificial light extended activity. Schedules replaced natural cues. Sleep became something to manage rather than something to enter gently. Yet the older experience of rest still exists beneath modern habits. It appears when lights are low, when voices soften, and when nothing is required. It emerges when the body remembers how to slow without instruction. You may feel it now, as the pace of this story remains steady and unhurried, as the voice stays calm and nothing unexpected happens. This feeling is familiar for a reason. It echoes countless evenings spent without urgency, without screens, without noise, just presence, warmth, and time moving gently forward. As this journey continues, the tone will grow even quieter. Ideas will soften further. The goal is no longer understanding, but rest. There is nothing left to learn for tonight. For now, allow yourself to remain here. Let the voice carry on without needing your attention. Let your breathing find its own pace. You are safe to drift, the way people once did, long before anything needed to be written down. As the night deepened, there was no sense of separation between people and the world around them. Sounds softened, but they did not disappear. The distant movement of animals, the quiet shifting of air, and the subtle crackle of embers all blended into a steady background, familiar and reassuring. People did not interpret these sounds. They did not label them or analyze them. They simply noticed them, the way one notices breathing, without effort or intention. Awareness remained gentle, unfocused, and calm. Sleep, when it arrived, was not forced. It unfolded naturally, like a slow turning inward. Thoughts loosened their grip. Images drifted without meaning. The body settled into rest without resistance. Dreams were not separated sharply from waking life. They flowed from the same experiences, the same landscapes, and the same relationships. When people woke, there was no urgency to explain what they had seen or felt. Dreams were accepted as part of the night, not something to be understood. Morning eventually returned, not as an alarm, but as a gradual change in light. Eyes opened slowly, bodies stretched. Awareness returned gently, without being pulled. There was no rush to begin. The day waited. This gentle transition between rest and activity shaped how people moved through life. There were no abrupt shifts, no sudden demands. Everything flowed from one state into another without sharp edges. Because of this, stress did not accumulate in the same way. The nervous system was allowed to reset regularly. Calm was not something rare. It was the background state. Over time, this created a deep sense of internal stability. People trusted their bodies. They trusted their rhythms. They trusted that effort would be followed by rest, and rest would naturally give way to movement again. The absence of written schedules meant that time remained flexible. Activities adjusted to conditions, rather than forcing conditions to adjust to plans. If the weather shifted, the day shifted. If energy was low, activity softened. This responsiveness reduced conflict. There was less friction between expectation and reality. Life was met as it was rather than as it was supposed to be. As generations passed, this way of living reinforced itself. Children grew into adults who had never known constant urgency. Slowness felt normal. Pauses felt safe. Silence felt complete. When challenges arose, they were met within this calm framework. Fear did not dominate response. Observation came first. Action followed only when it felt appropriate. As the world gradually moved toward written systems, many of these rhythms were compressed. Time became segmented. Transitions became sharper. Rest became something to fit in, rather than something that arrived naturally. Still, the body remembers the older pattern. It recognizes moments when nothing is required, when sound softens, when attention can relax. You may feel that now, as the story continues without pressure, as the pace remains steady, as nothing new is introduced suddenly. This familiarity allows the mind to rest without needing to disengage completely. From here, the journey does not introduce new ideas. It simply deepens the same gentle awareness, allowing repetition to become comfort and comfort to become rest. There is nothing ahead that requires attention. The story will continue softly, in the same tone, the same rhythm, supporting a slow drift into ease. For now, let the voice remain in the background. Let thoughts come and go without attachment. Let the body rest, trusting that everything necessary is already taken care of. As the hours of night stretched on, there was no clear moment when wakefulness ended and rest fully began. The transition was gradual, almost unnoticeable. Awareness softened, then softened again, until it rested comfortably without effort. People did not try to fall asleep. Sleep arrived when it was ready. The body knew how to release tension on its own, and the mind followed quietly behind. Breathing slowed naturally. Muscles relaxed without instruction. The world felt held at a distance that was neither far nor close, just right. Nothing intruded. Nothing demanded attention. In this state, time lost its edges. Minutes were not counted. Moments did not need to be marked. Experience flowed gently, without reference to before or after. This relationship with time carried into waking life as well. People were not sharply divided between states of rest and activity. They moved between them smoothly, like water changing direction without resistance. Because of this, life did not feel fragmented. The same calm that existed at night lingered during the day. Activity grew out of rest, and rest returned naturally after activity. Over many generations, this rhythm shaped the nervous system itself. Calm was familiar, stillness was safe, sudden urgency was rare, and when it appeared, it passed without lingering. People trusted this balance. They trusted that effort would not last forever, and that rest would always return. This trust reduced fear, even in uncertain conditions. The absence of constant stimulation allowed awareness to remain broad and relaxed. Attention did not cling to individual thoughts. It drifted gently, noticing without holding. This made it easier to let go, to release worry, to allow experiences to come and go without resistance. The mind did not need to protect itself from overload. As societies later grew louder and faster, this ease became harder to access. Noise increased, distraction multiplied. Rest required effort instead of arriving on its own. Yet the body still remembers the older pattern. It responds when given the chance, when the environment softens, when the pace slows, when nothing new is introduced. You may feel that response now. A subtle settling, a gentle heaviness, a sense that staying awake requires more effort than resting. That sensation is natural. It reflects a very old understanding of how the body moves towards sleep when it feels safe. In early human life, safety was often found in togetherness, in familiarity, and in rhythm. Nights were shared, sounds were known. The environment was predictable enough to allow release. This predictability did not come from control. It came from repetition, from living the same patterns long enough for the body to recognize them as stable. Over time, this created an internal sense of grounding that did not depend on external reassurance. Calm arose from within, supported by the world rather than threatened by it. As the night continued, thoughts became less distinct. Images blended. Awareness drifted inward without effort. Nothing needed to be resolved. If sleep arrived, it was welcomed. If it did not, rest was still present. There was no pressure either way. Being awake was not a failure. Being asleep was not a goal. This acceptance made rest deeper. The absence of expectation allowed the body to choose its own timing. As this journey continues, the voice will remain steady, repeating familiar ideas in gentle ways, offering no surprises. The purpose is no longer to explore but to support rest. From here on, everything slows further. Words become background. Meaning softens. Attention loosens its grip. You are free to drift, free to stop listening, free to rest without effort. The story will continue quietly, holding the same rhythm, the same calm presence, until it fades naturally into stillness. There is nothing else you need to do, nothing else you need to hear. Just allow yourself to remain here, supported by the same gentle rhythm that once guided people through the night, long before anything needed to be written down. As the night continued, there was a quiet sense that nothing more was required. No decisions needed to be made. No effort needed to be applied. Life, for the moment, was complete as it was. People rested within this feeling often. It was familiar. The body recognized it, and the mind followed gently. There was no urgency to move forward, and no pressure to remain alert. Awareness became softer, wider, less focused. Sounds blended together. Sensations faded into the background. Thought slowed until it no longer needed to form complete ideas. This state was not empty. It was full, but without tension, full of stillness, full of quiet presence, full of the sense that everything was already taken care of. Time continued to pass, but it no longer felt important to notice it. Moments stretched, then dissolved, without needing to be marked or remembered. In early human life, this experience of rest was common. It was not rare or special. It arrived naturally when the world felt safe enough to allow it. And often, it did. Safety did not come from constant control. It came from familiarity, from knowing the sounds of the night, from recognizing the patterns of darkness and light, from being surrounded by what was known. This familiarity allowed the body to release vigilance. Muscles softened, breathing deepened. The nervous system settled into its natural rhythm. Rest was not something separate from living. It was woven into it. Activity and stillness existed side by side, supporting one another without conflict. Because of this balance, exhaustion rarely accumulated. Life had its demands, but they were followed by genuine rest. Recovery was not delayed or postponed. It was allowed. As the night progressed, people drifted in and out of sleep without concern. Waking briefly was not disruptive. Falling asleep again required no effort. The boundary between states remained gentle. Dreams, when they came, were not dramatic. They were quiet, reflective, often familiar. Images from daily life blended together without needing interpretation. When dreams faded, nothing was lost. Morning would eventually arrive, but it did not press itself forward. The night was allowed to complete itself fully. Rest was not interrupted unless it was naturally finished. This unhurried approach shaped how people related to the passage of time as a whole. Life was not divided into strict segments. It flowed, adjusting naturally to what was needed. As societies became more structured, this fluidity diminished. Nights grew brighter. Activity extended. Rest became something to schedule rather than something to enter. Yet the older pattern still lives within the body. It responds when the environment allows it. When the pace slows, when expectations fall away, you may notice that response now, a gentle heaviness, a sense that staying awake is optional, that letting go feels easier than holding on. That feeling is not accidental. It is deeply familiar. It echoes countless nights lived without pressure, without urgency, without demand. From here, the story does not need to introduce anything new. The ideas have already been shared. Now, repetition becomes reassurance. Familiarity becomes comfort. The voice will continue steadily, without surprises. Words will remain soft. The rhythm will stay the same. You are welcome to drift. Welcome to rest. Welcome to stop listening altogether. The world being described does not require attention. It simply continues, quietly, supporting rest in the same way it once did, long before anything needed to be written down. There is nothing else to do, nothing else to understand. Just allow yourself to remain here, carried by the same slow rhythm that once guided people through the night, again and again. As the night moved closer to its quietest hours, there was a sense of settling that did not need explanation. Everything that needed to happen had already happened. Everything that needed attention had already been given space. The world felt steady, not because nothing could change, but because nothing needed to change right now. This moment was complete on its own. People rested easily within this feeling. The body recognized it as familiar. Muscles released their last traces of tension. Breathing found a slow, even rhythm without being guided. Thoughts became less distinct. They no longer followed clear paths. Instead, they drifted gently, appearing and fading without needing to be held or understood. In early human life, this drifting state was not resisted. It was welcomed. It signaled that the day had been fully lived and that rest could now take its place. Awareness softened further. The edges of experience blurred slightly. Sound, sensation, and thought blended together into a quiet background presence. Nothing demanded focus. Nothing required response. The mind did not need to stay alert to remain safe. The night itself felt supportive. This sense of support came from familiarity, from countless nights that had passed in the same way, from the knowledge, carried quietly in the body, that rest had always been followed by waking. Because of this, there was no fear in letting go. Sleep was not an absence. It was simply another state of being, as natural as waking. As hours passed, people shifted positions, breathed more deeply, and allowed sleep to deepen or lighten as needed. There was no right depth of rest. Any amount was enough. Even those who remained partly awake did not feel restless. Lying quietly was not uncomfortable. Stillness was something the body understood. This ease with rest carried into waking life as well. People did not fight fatigue. They responded to it. When energy returned, movement followed naturally. This balance prevented exhaustion from becoming overwhelming. Life contained effort, but it also contained release. Neither state dominated for long. As the world changed over generations, this balance became harder to maintain. Artificial rhythms replaced natural ones. Rest was shortened. Quiet became rare. Yet the body still remembers the older way. It responds when given the opportunity. When noise fades, when light softens, when nothing is expected, you may feel that memory now working quietly beneath awareness. A sense of permission, a sense that nothing needs to be done. This permission is powerful. It allows the nervous system to settle fully. It allows thought to loosen its grip. It allows rest to deepen on its own. From here, the story no longer needs to guide. It only needs to remain present. Repetition becomes comfort. Familiar phrasing becomes reassurance. The same ideas return gently, not to be understood, but to be recognized. Recognition requires no effort. It simply happens. The voice will continue softly. The rhythm will remain unchanged. Nothing new will be introduced. Nothing will demand attention. If sleep arrives, it is welcome. If it does not, rest is still present. Either way, there is nothing wrong and nothing missing. The world being described does not hurry. It does not insist. It does not ask anything of you. It simply continues, quietly, the way it always has. You are safe to rest inside this continuation, safe to let go of listening, safe to drift without concern. There is nothing ahead that requires preparation, nothing behind that requires reflection. Just this gentle movement of time, carrying you forward, the same way it once carried people through the night, long before anything needed to be written down. As the night reaches its deepest stillness, there is nothing left to unfold. Everything has already settled into place. The world continues quietly, without needing attention or acknowledgement. Breathing remains slow and steady. The body rests comfortably, supported by the surface beneath it. Muscles soften further, releasing what little effort remains. Thoughts are no longer forming clearly. They pass gently, like distant sounds that don't need to be identified. Awareness drifts without direction, without purpose. This state is familiar. It has been reached countless times before, even if it isn't remembered. The body knows how to be here. The mind follows naturally. In early human life, nights often ended this way, not with a clear moment of sleep, but with a gradual fading of awareness. Rest deepened quietly, without instruction. There was no concern about how long sleep would last. No need to measure it. No expectation placed upon it. Rest was allowed to take the shape it needed. Silence filled the space gently. Not empty silence, but a silence that felt complete. Sounds, if they appeared, blended easily into the background. The world outside continued its slow movement. Air shifted, temperature changed slightly. Nothing required response. Inside, everything remained calm. There is no need to stay aware, no need to listen closely. The voice can remain in the background, steady and unchanging. Their ideas no longer matter. They do not need to be followed or remembered. They simply repeat softly, creating a sense of continuity and ease. Time passes without being noticed. Minutes dissolve into one another. Awareness grows lighter. The body remains safe, supported, unbothered. Nothing unexpected will happen. Nothing new will begin. The night holds everything gently, the way it always has. Breathing continues, slow, even, natural. Rest deepens, or remains light. Either is fine. There is no correct state to reach. The world does not ask for anything more. There is no transition to make, no ending to arrive at. Only this steady presence, continuing quietly, moment after moment, just as it once did, long before anything needed to be written down.